Well, hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Full Quota podcast. My name is Mpho and Tim. I've got Tim Delace here with me to talk all things in South African cricket. Remember, the Full Quota podcast is on Twitter as well. You can follow us on Twitter, on X, or also at Full Quota Pod. You can also subscribe to the One World Sports Radio YouTube channel. On top of that, we are also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for those who love audio. So we've covered all the bases. We're in the midst of SA20 when we talk about that. But before we do anything else, Tim, how are you doing?
Yeah, can't complain. All good.
That's good. Good to hear, Tim. Good to know. Okay, let's move into our segment. What happened this week? So this week we saw the start of the the World Under-19 World Cup, not the SA Under-19, but the Under-19 Cricket World Cup. So the SA Under-19 team played against the West Indies. They started off there and they got a massive win off of the back of that. Some incredible performances. They were in a tough position, Tim, but they ended up winning by 231. Batting wise, they found themselves 5 down for not so much, but then the partnership between Devon Murray and captain Jujuan James changed the whole complexion of the game for a team that was looking to get to around about 200 would have been what we've gotten. They got them to about 280. And Devon Murray was such a great had such a great time with the bat with 65 runs. But then from a bowling perspective, it was the Mpaka show. He took 3 early wickets, and then Jewel from the West Indies, he then with an incredible fighting century, but then he just ended up running out of partners in the end. How did you find that game? Because I walked out of there thinking, we've got some talent here, some really, really serious talent in the under-19 team.
Yeah, I know the talent is undoubted. I think I was genuinely worried, to be fair. In both innings, I really thought that the West Indies had the right attitude in that game. They didn't win, but I thought the way they put pressure on South Africa, both in the batting and the bowling, was very, very impressive. And I'm actually looking forward to seeing how they get on in the rest of the tournament. And in terms of us, look, that talent, those talent in that batting order, I think we are going to continue to score runs in this tournament. There are some questions, for example, I don't quite get why John James is batting at number 8. It's top 5. He's a top 5 batter.
He's the most experienced of the team.
Exactly. So if I'm picking the 11, I'm swapping his place with Whitehead in the batting order. That to me just makes a hell of a lot more sense to me, in terms of the right batting order. But the way they came back from 2 very difficult situations is hugely impressive. As you say, at the batting they were in all sorts of bother. They were they lost.
There was 6 for 145 when Devon Murray and John James came in, and they then scored 21 run partnership before Devon Murray went out in the last with 5 balls to go. So I was really impressed. But they were in trouble, in serious trouble.
That Jewel Andrew guy, I'm very interested to see what he does for the rest of the tournament, because he wasn't just hacking, and I know it's very easy to say, well, he was probably just throwing at the bat. He wasn't doing that for 90% of his innings. It was hugely, hugely impressive against quality bowling. I think it's South Africa's most impressive bowling for a long time. In terms of the under-19 setup, I think that they've got all their bases covered there. I think Norton and Mpaka will cause. I've watched now subsequently from that game. Mpaka is miles ahead of everybody else that I've seen around the world in this. He is streets ahead. So him getting 5 wickets here was hugely impressive. I think he's going to blow worse teams, which we're going to play in the competition, even more away with the way he's going.
Mm.
So hugely impressive.
Um,
They could be hugely good.
Yeah, and the one thing we didn't speak about last week was David Teager. Obviously, he had his captaincy taken away for his comments that he made late last year, and then they took away his captaincy largely because of the protests around the stadiums. And there were a few in Poch, but it wasn't one that I thought would warrant big security. But I was intrigued in watching him bat. He batted like a man who had the weight of the world on his shoulders, and his team was in trouble. Um, yeah, like it. You kind of feel for him because you want him to express himself a lot, but obviously in this situation it's a little bit tough. Then there were also the injuries, but let's talk David Teager and then we'll talk injuries.
Yeah. So I think to put the positive spin on, the positive thing is, if he had not created that foundation with his 44, I think it was, it wouldn't have given John James and company the freedom to play with that they were able to at the back end of the innings. So he looked rusty. He looked like a man who was really struggling. He looked like a man who had been reading everything that was on social media about him, everything critical. It looked like it had really played on his mind. That's how it looked like when he was batting. But as I said, to put a positive spin on it, without that 44, we might not have got to 285. In which case, we might not have won the game.
Yes, and look, I'm still intrigued to see what he can bring. He's a very talented batter, and the problem with the South African cricket team is that the under 19s is that top order, middle order. But now there's injuries. Obviously, John James pulled up, and then he had to be escorted off. There's various injuries around the team, and that's what Malibonga Maketa needs to deal with for the game tomorrow against England, as to be able to how he can get his star players fit. But the fundamental issue for me with this team is that top to middle order needs to fire. You've got Stolk and Luando Pretorius at the top. They are explosive. That's how they want to play. But in that middle order, Seletswane, Tiga, Whitehead, obviously one John James in there now, need to find some runs. I haven't been able to find runs throughout the warm-up games and the series before this one. But for me, that's where I think Coach Mali wants to get. But also you want guys to express themselves. And so it's a catch-22. But if you saw how Jules Andrew was batting, he was batting with a lot of responsibility. Wickets were falling around him. It was like you can see, and that's what I like about this tournament. You can see the guys who are gonna possibly have long international careers at the senior level. Mapaka's one of them. Jules Andrews another one of them. And I'd like one of the batters to step up. John James already has a senior career, but not an international one. But he was playing for Province, and we just want to see more of his batting, right? The whole thing of demoting yourself down the order doesn't necessarily make sense, but maybe it was a tactical issue. But yeah, that's the other thing. So they're playing their game against England tomorrow.
They were playing against Dale Benkenstein's son.
Yes. Tomorrow in Poch, 10 a.m. And then their next game, just pulling it up here for everybody so we can get it. It's group play, right? So you play West Indies, you play England, and then the final group game is against Scotland on the what is it? What day is it? It's on Saturday. The Saturday in Poch, and then you go into the knockout stages or the Super Sixes, the different Super Six groups. Then you go into the playoffs and the knockouts. So long way to go for the Proteas, the young Proteas. They need to win tomorrow. If they win tomorrow, they effectively walk into the Super Sixes, which is win number one. It's never guaranteed at this level, by the way. So yeah, and then they go on and they play. So please do support them as much as possible. The next piece of news, Tim, is that the South African Proteas women are in Australia. They're going to play a warm-up game tomorrow in Australia on Wednesday in Australia
Wednesday.
against the Governor Generals in Sydney. Obviously, Chloe Tryon coming back is massively is big. And so we'll be intrigued to see how they go. They did leave last week and they're trying to get themselves acclimatized there. So that's something to watch out for going forward. And then obviously the men in New Zealand have arrived. The so-called, as everyone calls them, the C team have arrived. Neil Brandt did speak at the press conference. He's excited. They're all excited. Like I think it's nothing to scoff at this opportunity. And yeah, it's remember what happened in the first test in New Zealand 2 years ago when the Poachers got taken out and everyone was complaining for jet lag. This time they're there early. Hopefully they'll acclimatize. They've also got some games, a game lined up before they play their test matches. Yes, Tim.
No, I was just gonna say that Keegan Peterson, Todd Oliver, and Neil Brandt were all asked exactly the same question. How do you feel about this team being labelled as a C team? And look, it is disrespectful. As far as I'm concerned, it is disrespectful. Even if on paper it is that. It is a little bit disrespectful to guys of certainly two of those guys are very experienced international cricketers. They know what they're supposed to do. They know what they're doing. It's not guys who haven't got international experience. But just one thing I did notice was this entire week, except for Thursday, it's train, and train. There is a lot of preparation going into the series. Very, very unusual from a international cricket series point of view. It's usually a couple of days, and then you straight into the series. This seems to be a big sort of acclimatization.
See, here's the thing: we're losing. Yeah, we're losing on the talent battle. We might as well be prepared. That's a simple thing. Go in there, be prepared, and we could catch them at a bad time or underprepared because they think they're facing a C team, which actually is a B team. Who knows? But yeah, it's awesome to have guys that side, and they're gonna get their caps. That cap ceremony is gonna be so long. I don't know who's going to be there. Which South Africans are going to be handing out 7 caps, but that's going to be quite an interesting one before the game. Like, here you go. A little speech. Here you go. A little speech. They'll probably do like one overarching speech, and then Shukri's going to have to call out names. Get their caps. But anyway,
they're probably prepared actually. Just one speech,
and then
welcome all of you to the South
2 claps will be appropriate. Oh, I love it. I'd actually wish there was footage around this team. Okay, that's it. That's happened this week. Now, let's go into what we need to do. It's week 2 of the SA20 has just gone by. We've got some interesting things. I'm going to start with the table before we talk about anything. This is what the table looks like the day on today, which is Monday. Obviously, there's games today, but the Paarl Royals are at the top. They had an incredible week. Durban Super Giants in second with 13 points. Sunrisers Eastern Cape with 10. And then you've got MI Cape Town, Joburg Super Kings who gave themselves a lifeline, and Pretoria Capitals who need to find a way to get themselves back in here. So let's go through what happened in the week, and then we will talk about any of the results that have occurred. So starting off with last week, Monday, we said the Durban Super Giants going to Durban, or the Joburg Super Kings going to Durban. They needed a win. Well, they didn't get a win. They managed to bowl the Durban Super Giants for 160 or 140. And unfortunately, they caught themselves on the wrong end of a class and masterclass. He got 64 off of 41 to kind of help the Super Giants get to that respectable total. It was quite interesting because the Joburg Super Kings started off really well, and then it just went downhill from there. And Super Giants winning by 37 runs. The Joburg Super Kings couldn't get to 145; they got to 108. Keshav Maharaj 2 for 17, and Richard Gleeson, who looks like the find of the tournament, coming through with 2 for 22. The next game was the MI Cape Town hosting the Sunrisers in Newlands, right? The first the first game in Cape Town for the team for MI Cape Town, right? And they got 202 runs. The Sunrisers batting first. We thought that was a really good total. We thought the batting was incredible. Jordan Hanman coming off 106 of 62. David Malan going back to his world number one days as the number one T20 batter. He scored 53 of 37. In reply, the MI Cape Town, they got Rickleton got 58 of 33. They start off really well at the top as they always do this season. It seems like it's a situation Ricey getting 41 off of that. Sam Curran got 31 runs as well, but it wasn't enough. They lost by 4 runs with that final over going to Othniel Bartman, who gave us probably a contender for innings of the week, but he gave us a masterclass in death bowling. He was just bowling Yorkers all over the place, and he got himself that accolade and helped his team get through. And then on Wednesday, Les Deploy scored 71 against the Paarl Royals in Paarl, but it wasn't enough because, again, the Joburg Super Kings seemingly coming against teams who their best players have their best days against them, which is how you want in this tournament. And yeah, and so the Joburg Super Kings batting first could only get to 134. Lewis Deploy scoring 71 for that team. However, the bowling of Lungingiti, he took 3 for 17. Obed McCoy, 2 for 31. They're building a really nice partnership there in Paarl. Josh Butler just ran rampant through them. He scored 70 of 37. Vian Libber scored 39 of 30. Easy 7-wicket win for the Paarl Royals. That moves us to the next set of fixtures, which is Thursday. Pretoria Capitals winning their first game of the tournament against Durban Supergiants in Pretoria. We had a Will Jacks masterclass with him scoring 101 for the Capitals. Kind of reminded us that he still has it. They scored 204 for 9. Will Jack scoring 101 or 42. And Colin Ingram 43 off 23 balls. Reece Topley for the Durban Supergiants took 3 wickets in that game. Junior Dollar got a run out. He took 2 wickets. And then in reply, Matthew Brisker scoring 33 for the Durban Supergiants. Quinton de Kock coming in at number 3. He only managing to score 25, but it was Will Jacks at the top of the order who took 2 for 18. Wayne Parnell took 2 for 54, and Harrisville Yuna as well 2 for 39 to help the Pretoria Capitals get their first win of the tournament. Next one was the MI Cape Town taking on the Paarl Royals in the first of a doubleheader over the weekend. This one was in Cape Town, and it was MI Cape Town who won this first one. Big high-scoring game. Paarl Royals won the toss, but batted first. They scored 172 for 8. MI Cape Town scored 175 for 2 in reply, winning with 19 balls remaining by 8 wickets. Jason Roy in the runs with 38. Josh Butler scoring 46. But it was Devin Miller, 20 of 21, and Mitch Van Buren with 28 runs. But it wasn't enough. The bowling of Thomas Kaber, the left-arm wrist spinner, getting 3 for 20 there in his second game of the tournament. They gave him another run through, and he came good. But in reply, Ryan Rickleton, 94 or 52. He's just getting the runs. Rassie also got 41 of 28, and it was easy way through for the youngsters, David Brevis and Connor Estes at the end, once Rassie and Ryan Rickleton had taking them through. But it was Ricks who was 94 not out, batting with Connor Estesen to take them home, and he did that, and they won by 8 wickets. Sabre Shamsi only took 2 wickets for the Royals. The next one was Saturday. This past Saturday, the Durban Supergiants at the start of that against the Sunrisers Eastern Cape. Remember the previous game, John Smuts came through and he took everyone he put everyone on notice. But this time, with this game in Durban, another low-scoring affair, Durban Supergiants scoring 159 for 7. They were helped by Vian Mulder, 52 off 29. Lots of wickets were falling up front, and Vian Mulder, and it was the start of Marcus Stoinis' SA20 run. He only got 1 for 9. In the bowling, Simon Harmer took 4 for 18. So effectively, it was a revenge season. Last, it was John Smuts. Now it's Simon Harmer against his former team. In reply, Sunrise Eastern Cape needing 160 to win. They managed to get to 163, and it was a good win for them. Tristan Stubbs coming through with 66 of 37. Aidan Markham 38 of 29. They effectively sealed it for the Sunrise Eastern Cape. Stoinis 2 for 27 for the Durban Supergiants in that game. And then finally, the last two matches of the weekend were the Durban Super Kings against the Pretoria Capitals in a Gauteng derby, a Highveld derby. The Pretoria Capitals batted first. They scored 167 for 9, which we thought was slightly below par. Carl Verena, in his revenge season, scoring 72 or 52 balls. He held that innings together with wickets falling around him. He was supported by Parnell. He scored 22 of 23. The bowling wise, Lazard Williams took 3 for 26 to continue the revenge season because he didn't play last year. And Romario Shepherd 3 for 39. Nando Bug also got 2 wickets. For the Joburg Super Kings, not the Lions, that top order failed. We fought from Music much, but Leas came through with 33 with a nice little 50-run partnership with Spanella Makanya, who got 40 of 31, who also, you could say, is a little bit of a revenge season. Moen Ali and Donovan Ferreira then went on 80-run partnership, 80-odd run partnership, 70. It was actually 78. 77, where Donovan Ferreira decided to blast the Pretoria Capitals out the water. He scored 56 of 20 with 7 fours and 3 sixes in that period, supported by Moen Ali to get the Joburg Super Giants their first win of the season. Will Jacks, the bowler, taking 2 for 26. And it was an interesting week nonetheless, Tim. Those are the results. What result were you happy about, or which results intrigued you the most?
What intrigued me was the strength of Paarl. That's what intrigued me. Paarl have now gone throughout this tournament, and they know they're 11 already. I think the majority of the teams don't actually know they're 11. Yes, they know they're 8. They know they're 8, maybe even 9. Yeah. They're 100% happy with those players. Paarl Royals, with the form of Jason Roy at the back end of the week, know exactly their 11. They're very happy with their 11. They know what they're going to get from their players. And they know that they are heavy favourites when they play at home. They're not just favourites, they are heavy favourites because of the bowling lineup that they have. So they are, for me, I expected them to do well at home. I did. But I didn't necessarily expect them to be this clinical and this efficient at this early in the tournament.
The fact that they're getting something out of Jason Roy that they weren't getting last season is a plus. Remember, they even brought Owen Morgan last season, and he was just a mentor essentially. And I thought that's where Jason Roy was going with this, but he's scoring runs. Joss at the top is also coming in through with the runs, and yeah, it's that middle order that's working. Mitch van Buren, David Miller, they're doing a lot of things. Andy Lepetlugayo stepping up, taking wickets, and they're a team that was built to bowl at home, and it's going to be interesting to see when they now come up this week to the Highveld how they'll navigate. They did well against the Pretoria Capitals, and they won that game in a high-scoring affair. But to a certain extent, you kind of felt that they weren't built for those types of conditions. So it'll be interesting to see when they travel around the country how they'll be able to do that, because now I think this is the start of their travels, whereas some of the other teams are having homestands, right, like MI Cape Town and also JSK as well. So it's actually quite, I like the fact that they found their 11, and it's sad that like guys like Evan Jones might not get a look in unless if there's injury, but Fabian Allen, Obed McCoy, just guys who can bowl on slow wickets and take wickets and cause a lot of pressure. Obed McCoy against MI Cape Town, against what team was it where he defended 14, or where they defended 14 off the last one. He only got 4 runs, right? It was last week. And then you come and look at them yesterday, or last week on Monday against the JSK, lowish total, happy to defend. It was 145 and they managed to bowl them out for 108. Yes, JSK have their batting issues, but that's what it is. And I like that from the Paarl Royals. We thought that they weren't gonna be able to travel well or even compete with the bowlers they have. But JP Dumi's got something going there, and that's something that's really really cool, you know. And whereas everyone else is now fighting each other, you got Paarl Royals sitting up there, and Sunrisers are seemingly getting it going. There, I think the closest to an 11. The exit of Nicholas Puran from the DSG is a problem for them, and they're trying to figure
and
out what they do at the top of the order, and you can see
and
it.
Gleason, and Gleason
Yes,
as
and
well.
Richard Gleason going, right? And so they're trying to figure out what they're doing at the top of the order. You see Quinton coming in at 3. And you'll see a lot of tinkering with DSG because they're trying to protect Heino Klaassen from the new ball, which is wild because this man can hit anything. And that's the thing. But if you look at the MI Cape Town, they're struggling with their middle order. And I like how this tournament is working, right? You know, teams have issues, right? The MI Cape Town struggling with their middle order. They seemingly now found something in Thomas Kaber from a bowling perspective. They're going to go with 2 spin bowlers in Linda and Kaber. Then they obviously have Kagiso, that Nuwan Tusara guy who played yesterday, who they brought in from Sri Lanka, who has the same action as Malinga. That's going to be quite intriguing to see going forward because I'm looking there going, he's got something. It might bring you back into games now. And so,
Yeah,
and from a batting perspective, what do you do when Rickleton and Rassi don't score runs like they did? They like
that,
yesterday.
yeah. That's a problem for them. That's a huge
Yeah,
problem for them. If I was them, I'd consider putting Sam at 3 because their middle order just
Karen.
isn't striking. I'd
Yeah.
consider saying to Sam, go in there, get a 20 off 10. It just gives them a
Yes, and
bit of boost, you know.
the thing
And
about
then,
T20, about these types of tournaments is that you'll be tweaking as you go along, right? You win a game, you'll be like, okay, let's keep this. But like for the Pretoria Capitals, we happy they've now let go of Tennis de Brain. Now they found Carl Verena. The batting was good enough, but it wasn't there yet. So there might be a little bit more tweaking, but you found something in Carl Verena. So Carl is staying, and we love that revenge season for him. Um, and then and then we move on to their bowling, right? Will Jacks has now found something, so they've got something in him. Do they need another spinner? Can they carry another batter? So those are the questions that they're going to be trying to figure out this week because from a bowling perspective, the Pretoria Capitals are really struggling. But on the other opposite end is that they're not putting out down. They can put down high scores. They just can't defend them, and that's where they are. Just that in Johannesburg over the weekend, they just had a middling total, and they found themselves on the back end of a hiding, right? And so those are the things that you need to kind of and you're at the point of the season where a coach is going to be like, we're just not playing to our best, or I need to make changes. And you can see now guys are making changes. Joburg Super Kings, they're trying to find someone who can bat. And the game on Saturday kind of gave them an inclination that maybe Spinella Makanya is your guy who can come in and bat. Moen Ali, the jury's still out for him because I'm not sure what he does. Because the thing for me with Moen Ali and JSK is, does he give me enough with the ball for me to warrant having him there as a batter? Because he scored 25 of 21, lots of dot balls in there, not a lot of boundary hitting. So those are the things that the teams need to look into. And so, yeah, like Tim, like when you look at the landscape of the teams, which is the team that baffles you the most?
it's a JSK one. I
Mm-hmm.
was really. I think I said to you that they were going to make the final.
Mm.
I think I said that.
Yes,
Um,
you did say
but
that. Yeah.
but but that's the nature of this format. I still think it's a nucleus of a good side. The problem there is the problems are there are many, but you've pointed them out. But also the top order. I think there needs to be a change.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big one. It's a
You're
big
gonna say
call.
drop Faf.
I'm gonna say drop Valve. I'm gonna say drop Valve.
There's
And
no way that
it,
franchise goes without him.
I know that. I know that. But Fav's now got to the stage where he's been peerless since he has stopped playing for the Proteas and he's gone around the world
Mm.
and he has been doing really well. But it's now got to the stage where maybe we are keeping him just a little bit too long. You know,
Mm-hmm.
just a little bit too long. Um, he's struggling. There's no way going about it. And if he continues to struggle, they are going to continue to struggle. I think even if they go and they say to him, right, we want you to come down come down to 3,
Yeah.
something needs to give in the top order. There needs to be a change up at that top order. You can't just be 10 for 2 all the time. Um, one
That's true.
score, one score of 30 in his last 10 in this format. The man's struggling. I love Faf. I love him to bits. Fantastic cricketer. But if the man is struggling, and if we've seen something that is a common denominator in these premier T20 leagues, is that the owners, the coaches, the captains are not afraid to make tough decisions. They're not afraid to do it. You don't see it
But then,
so much in international cricket, but in these leagues, you see them. These cutthroat decisions where they go, enough. That's it.
but Tim, Faf is Mr. CSK. He's Mr.
I know
JSK.
that. Well, last week I said Pretoria should drop Wayne Parnell. I still stand by that. I love Wayne. I
You
still
also
stand
said they
by
must
that.
drop tennis the brand and they heard you. So who knows?
They did do that. But something needs to give there. It's just not working
The only
for
problem,
whatever
the
reason.
only issue is the reserve batter in the situation is Ronan Harman, and he has really struggled at the start of this SA20. So do you give him another chance? Because we've now rolled out Spinello Makanya. The only other thing is Wayne Matson, because we haven't seen Wayne Matson play. So that's the
Well,
only
he
other
did
person
play.
you would say bring in.
Yeah, he did play. He was out first, Paul.
Yeah.
I can't remember which game it was. So he didn't really get a chance to show anything. I said last week that I'd get him in there.
Yeah.
But yes, it does complicate things. He's not really an opening batter, but courses for courses, you might just have to go, you know what? You're very experienced. You've been around the block a lot. You know your game, because he does know his game extremely well. Listen, you may not want to bat there, but if you don't bat there, you don't play. I'm sure Wayne will go, okay, fine. I'll give it a crack. I'll try
Okay.
something.
Okay, before we go to the awards, let's go to the fixtures, and then we'll just have a quick at the table, and we'll go back to the awards. Today, Sunrisers play Pretoria Capitals, and what I think is a must-win for the Pretoria Capitals. They kind of need to get the show on the road. They've only gotten one win, and it's starting to get to, if I lose, I need to win every game, and I think they're at that point now, because they've obviously got 6 games left. They've only got 1 win. They need to get at least about 5 wins to get them there. So you need to win 4 out of 6. Sunrise is obviously trying to get away from that bottom half of the table and cement themselves there at the top. MI Cape Town plays Durban Super Giants in Cape Town. That's going to be quite interesting to see how this Durban Super Giants team plays in Cape Town. There's a slight little downturn in their performances, largely because people are leaving. But let's see if they can't get themselves back to winning ways. Joburg Super Kings want to continue. Their equation is simple: win 4 of the next 5 games. They're in. They're playing Paarl in Johannesburg on Wednesday. They need to win all their home games, because that's where the advantage lies. And this is a massive one in Johannesburg on Wednesday. Then Thursday, you've got the Capitals hosting the Sunrisers in Pretoria in a doubleheader kind of reverse fixture. That's going to be quite interesting. Adam Markham returning to his home ground. Last time he played there for a SA20 team for his Sunrisers, he scored 100 against JSK, so he might be excited to come back home. Same thing happens with the Capitals. They need to find a way to win games. That's the MO for them right now. Paarl Royals, who are sitting pretty at the top of the log, they host the Durban Super Giants in a very intriguing match. This is a game where effectively it's the battle of the teams that play on the slower wickets, right? And so Durban Super Giants is well prepared for this Paarl wicket, and it's just going to come down who adapts their batting best, because I think both bowling attacks will have that Paarl slight edge, but it is what it is. Saturday doubleheader to start off with. It's Sunrisers against MI Cape Town and Gqeberha. This one's actually also quite an interesting one, a battle of the youngsters. Very young team in MI Cape Town against another young team in Sunrise Eastern Cape. Also, the battle of the big hitters. You've got Rickleton, you've got Diewald Brevis, you've also got Tristan and Aiden. So that's going to be quite an interesting clash to watch. It's like a mid-table clash, if you want to call it. Then the reverse fixture of what happened on Saturday, this past Saturday, in Centurion, Pretoria Capitals take on the Joburg Super Kings. A must win for both teams. Effectively, at this point in time, whoever loses this game might find themselves eliminated from the tournament. So that's going to be quite interesting for that one. And then to round off the weekend, Durban Super Giants taking on Paarl Royals in a reverse fixture in Durban. That's going to be quite intriguing, obviously, because both teams play on low and slow pitches. Not low, but slow. Um, of the fixtures, what's enticing you there?
It's the Durban team in general. I want to see what the Durban team does. You're quite right. There's been a slight dip in performance. It's a slight dip, but there is a dip, and that is a slight concern. I still think they're in a decent position, but if they could somehow get into the qualifiers, having lost Gleason and Puran, I think that would be an excellent performance, an excellent season for them. Um, Look, they need Storiness to come to the party. There's no getting around about it. A proper cricketer, seasoned cricketer, knows his game inside out. World Cup winner. You need him. To say, I'm Australian, and Australians. What Australians do? Australians win. That's what they do. They know how to win. They do.
Okay.
Australians
I
know
hear
how to
you.
win.
Yeah. So, but my thing is this. My point is this on DSG is you started off well, 3 wins in a row. You're staring 3 losses in a row if you lose today, and that's going to kind of create because T20 tournament is about momentum. You kind of need if you going in the wrong direction, you need to rest it and start a new momentum in the right direction. DSG is going in the wrong direction now. They need to kind of settle themselves out. And MI Cape Town, it's kind of like that Cinderella story. Midnight has passed. Has midnight passed? And we'll find out in a couple of days if they're going to start getting a run of losses. And you don't want a run of losses now. You want a run of wins because you want to secure your spot in the playoffs as soon as possible. So that's going to be quite interesting. And also, Paul, can they continue this? Can this? It looks like they can. They've got a strong 11, but in T20, you're just a big innings away from being on the back end. But this team seemingly knows how to manage with their bowling and win with their bowling, which is really, really amazing. Even though their batting is here and there, they have good moments, they have bad moments. It's largely been average, but from a Paarl pitch, it's been stellar. At home, they're just really, really great. And so it'll be interesting to see how they play away from home. Here's the table. Yeah, outside of the Paarl Royals, effectively every team from 2 to 6 is still in it with a shot. Paarl probably needs about one more win, and they probably have secured their spot in the semi in the playoffs. But essentially, from 2 to 6, it's a fight. It's a fight. They're teams that need wins, and they can get wins and can get a run and find themselves in and around here. And yeah, so Durban Super Giants, another loss puts you in a little weird situation. Sunrisers, you are starting to look good. That's what you want. That's they want to see if they can continue. MI Cape Town feels to me like they are starting to trend in the opposite direction. They need to rest that. Joburg Super Kings, 1 win doesn't make an entire season, but it brings stuff into the change room. And then the Capitals as well. The Capitals really, really need to find a way to get some momentum going. And yeah, so now let's go to our awards of the week, Tim. We're going to start with the surprise of the week. Who has surprised you this week, Tim?
This is not a it is a person, and it's not it's not a criticism of him. I think he's done fine when he's been picked. I think he's he's shown some promise, but it still surprised me. The constant selection of Connor Esterhuizen is surprising for me. It's surprising in that I suppose, but what does it tell me about Olofsson? Where's Olofsson's career now? That's my issue. Rudolph's 27, 28.
Mm-hmm.
He was talk with the town 18 months ago. He had a fantastic season in the Vitality Blast in Essex. He's not been brilliant this season, but I'm not sure what has he done wrong to not be picked. I like Conor Esterhuizen, but Conor Esterhuizen prior to this tournament, outside of he's done nothing, nothing in a professional cricket, nothing for the Lions because he hasn't been playing for the Lions.
Yeah.
So that to me, full credit to the coaches that see something in his nets, but I guess it's more of a worry for me as where's Grant's career is. That's worry for me.
Oh, well, look, I think if I look at that in my team, obviously, as well, like you sitting there going, well, throughout the tournament, there's guys you're sitting there going, okay, there's like, what does this mean for your career? And I think Grant's the biggest one. But look, you're giving Connor a chance, and he's coming through, and they're willing to struggle with him, whereas the JSK have decided to drop their rookie, right? Ronan Hanman, they've decided he's going to be sitting on the bench for a few. So I get your point, and I think it's quite an interesting one for us to think about, actually, for who are those players who are sitting in these teams who are not getting game time. Kyle was nearly one of those players. Now he is getting game time, and he's my surprise of the week. I didn't think they'd listen to us. But actually, my surprise of the week is the guys who are doing the revenge season well, i.e. Kyle Verena, really, really great one. Spodella Makanya, 40 of 31. It's going to go unnoticed, but we saw what you were doing there. We understand what you were doing there. Lazard Williams, 3 for 33, 3 wickets over the weekend, and continually taking wickets, being the leading wicket taker of this tournament, is that surprise of the week. It's not a surprise for those who know him, but for the T20 world, it is. It's effectively saying that, yes, they do need Gerald, but a three horseman pace attack of Gerald, Lazard, and Andre caused a few problems for teams, right? So I'm really, really happy because he didn't get a lot of game time last year, but now he's getting quite a few, and he might come out as a very important person in the auction next year. Othniel Bartman, he might be up for innings of the week, but that bowling innings last week was sensational. Truly, truly sensational. It wasn't Cape Town against MI Cape Town, and you had them on the string, bowling Yorkers, doing the things that are needed. And you ask yourself, how? We went through an entire India series and he wasn't selected for the shorter formats of the game. So those are the ones where you're like, Coach Rob, are you watching? And so that's where I'm sitting.
Just a quick one on the bottom. What was most impressive for me was the first ball in there that the over goes for 4. It's a low 4 toss as the leg stump goes for 4. Bartman says, no, this is where I'm going to bowl. This is the plan. And he gets absolutely bang on for the rest of the over. He doesn't get nervous. He doesn't say, well, I've got to get a plan. No, plan A is the right one. It's just about executing. And he executed it beautifully.
Yeah. No, so that's what it was. And to those guys, shout out. Really, really awesome. You guys are really putting your hands up, and you're going to be given a run, an extended run. Innings of the week. What's your innings of the week, Tim?
This was a difficult one. I think I'm gonna give it to Sunrisers, but I'm gonna give it to the Sunrisers individual that the people would not expect.
Okay.
Largely to the fact the guy I'm leaving out is he's just so good, and I can't think highly enough of him. But I'm gonna give it to Jordan. Against Mike Cape Town. He's 101 for 42 balls. Just the way he manipulated the field, the way he hit the ball. He's such a talented individual. There was a nice little clip before the tournament where he said he was talking about insecurities. He was talking about wasn't sure where his career was going about a year ago. Wasn't sure where he was. He lost his contract. The Warriors took him on and said, no, we trust and believe you. And he says since then it's been not plain sailing, but he's just had
Mm.
the freedom to play his way, and he knows that his way is the right way for him. So just the 360 for him. I'm really really proud of him because he's a
Mm.
huge talent. That boy. I think the ceiling, the potential there is very very far. But on that innings, he just showed it against Ghost Ollie Stone, against Sam Curran, against Kakisa Rabada. He said, you know what?
Mm.
You might be international cricketers, but today's my day, and he certainly showed it.
Yeah, that's actually quite interesting. I think innings of the week is for those moments, and he really that 106 was a reminder to everybody that he still has it. And yeah, because you have a tendency of being forgotten, and in tournaments like this, especially with the amount of T20 South Africa has going to the World Cup, this tournament effectively is the performances tournament are going to belie opinions around whoever selected or not. It's either okay, we've seen him do it many times before, but there might be a form, or it's they were on form at the SA20. The question obviously is, can they take it to the next level? So I hear you, and I love that innings. Oh, it was so good. Oh, so good. Well done, Jordan Hammond. Um, from my perspective, it was Donovan Ferreira's 50 off 20 on Saturday night. I see Kyle 72, but Donovan Ferreira, that 56 of 20 was just insane. The JSK were in trouble. It looked like they were going to continue on their our middle or lower order doesn't know how to bat train. And he just came in, gave himself a couple of balls, and all of a sudden he just teed off. And as he's teeing off, he's got Moeen Ali on the other end, and he really exemplified what the tournament is, and what South Africa were missing, but are finding in different guys. You've got Klaus, you've got Stubbs, and Don's putting his name up. He also had a quiet start to the season, but that 56 is something that you'll never get. And obviously, it's not 100 because he obviously came in late, but what an innings, what a performance! Like anybody who scores 50 runs in 19 balls is something that is someone that you have to consider. But really really great effort there from him. He was really good. So that's my innings of the week. And hopefully for him, the Joburg Super Kings, he can dig them out of holes like that because they were in some sort of a hole. Anyway, last one, MVP of the week. Tim, which player this week was your MVP?
His team is struggling. His team is struggling. His team are in dire straits. They're not out yet, but they're in dire straits. So for me, his performances in 2 games this week, it showed just how highly he is thought of over in England
Mm,
and across formats, not just in this format. But it's got to be, for me, it's got to be Ron Jacks. 101, and then 2 games where he bowled and he went for 6 and over in 2 games. The opposition scored 200. He went
mm.
for two for 26
Yes,
in
and the
that
other one
game,
was
I
like
think.
2 for 16, which is weird. And
Uh,
yeah,
yes, two for 26 and 2 deliveries this week. So for me, I've always known that he's got enormous potential and he really loves to hit the ball. Um, and and Pretoria is ideal for him. The pitch is not ideal for him. Um, he wants the
mm,
ball to come onto the pitch. Now he wouldn't if he was playing for the Royals, he would not be doing this. He would
mm,
be he would be he'd be doing fine. He would not be playing with the same freedom because it's more difficult to do it on those sorts of wickets. So he's got the right team. Uh, I'm hugely impressed with him, and I think early on in his career, I thought his bowling. People said about his bowling, and I was not convinced. But his bowling is coming on leaps and bounds now. He becomes a real a real weapon in this format, as he showed in those games. For me,
yes,
it's Ronald Jacks.
it's baffling to me, especially now, because you sit there thinking, watching, going, this guy doesn't bowl all the time. You should hit him out. You should attack him, and it's caused the downfall of many top order batters. Some of the ball that he got Faf out with on Saturday night, the one that drifted in and straightened on off, was beautiful, unbelievably beautiful. And you kind of like there's a spinner in there, right? And it's really lovely to see. He's done well. My MVP of the week is another person from a team that's struggling, right? And he'll be very valuable to them if they need to get out. And he's proven his value this week. Is just the other side of the ball hasn't come to the party. Lazard Williams, he has, I think he took 7 wickets this week, and 3 wickets on Saturday. I think on Monday in Durban he took 3 more wickets. He put them in a good position before Heino Klaasen took it all away. And then obviously on Saturday, he was the reason why Pretoria Capitals really struggled. Every time they gave him the ball, he came out with something. He is a guy who I see the value of a guy like a Lazard at a national level. Talent-wise, is not at that superstar level, but the effort and the hard work that he gives to any team that he plays for is second to none. And so for me, he was my player of the week. He's sitting on top of the log as the leading wicket taker for the series. So I'm really, really happy for him to come through. I know Lungi's just topped him from yesterday because he's also someone who we need to be looking into, but he won MVP of the week last week. This week it's Lazard Williams. He's rocketed up that wicket taker table. The problem is obviously is the other side of the ball, and I can't fault him for the other side of the ball. It's not his department. He's doing his job really well. He's keeping JSK in games. The batters aren't doing the job. So well done to Lazard for being our MVP of the week, and Will Jacks for giving us that all-round element and being the MVP. And it doesn't have to be the best performing person, but it is the most valuable person in their team, and both of them are quite valuable. I think Will Jacks, if you had to put them together, might be a little bit more valuable because now we've discovered that he can bowl too, and that just changes the game entirely for the Capitals. Tim,
I'm just gonna give you Lazard's numbers this week, so just people can. So it's 3 for 26, 1 for 39, and 4 for 26. That is 8 for 95, I think, in the week. Really good numbers. Delighted for him. Big, huge.
Massive fan of Lazard. Massive fan. Okay, I'm not mad, but I'm disappointed, Tim. Where are you sitting here? Who are you not mad at but disappointed?
There were a couple. I'm going to go back to what I touched on earlier. I'm going to go Faf du Plessis. I thought, particularly with the World Cup coming around, I thought this would be the tournament that Faf du Plessis would not dominate, but would just go to Rob and say, look, I'm still producing the numbers. I'm still available. I still want to play for South Africa. I still want to win a World Cup. Come and get me. I really thought that this would be the tournament that he would be able to do that and to prove to everybody that he's still doing the numbers. Still a fantastic cricketer, but at the moment you cannot justify him coming, making a surprise for that World Cup selection. If he does still want to play in that World Cup and he's just being coy, the next 2.5 weeks is huge for him because I think he does need to. I don't think past numbers at the moment for him are enough. He's actually got to prove it now. He's got to put the numbers in. So I'm not mad, but I'm disappointed that he's had such a poor run in the tournament so far.
Yeah. Anybody in JSK. Reza for me as well. I'm not mad. I'm disappointed. If I think about it, right, it's Dewald Brevis. But essentially, my thing is around the batters, especially the Protea batters, right? This SA20 has required guys to adapt a lot more to different conditions, and they're not adapting. and it's a worry for the guys who are going to be at the World Cup. Quinny, was it? Well, not Vian, he scored runs, but Reza and Timber's not playing, but he's not in the T20 side, so that's fine. But the only guys who are actually in the runs are Aiden and Tristan. Riley Rousseau is another one. He's not in the runs. And it's a question of what's going on, guys. We need, your teams need you, right? And are you struggling to adapt to the conditions, to the pace of the ball, to the guile and the skill set of the bowlers? And so for me, just doing overarching, it's just the batters. Like, guys, what are we doing here? Are you going to allow these incumbents, these youngsters, to come and outshine you in an SA20 that is your own, that you should be owning? With an eye to the World Cup, you can't be having Faf, Reza, Quinny, or form, right? David Miller's doing his bit for the Paarl Royals, but what are you guys doing, right? And so it's just an overarching, ode to the batters out there in SA20, those who are not in the runs, to, light a fire up here. And let's go. I'm not mad, I'm not disappointed. One shout out is to the catching in the stadiums. We got 3 Betway SA20 catches this week, so now the pot's down to 500,000 rand. Some exquisite catches. Blessmore, the guy who got the second catch at Centurion, my man. Yes. You can see a guy who's gone for catching practice. So yeah, I'm no longer mad at that. I'm no longer disappointed at the catching. I think it's great. Continue to do more. Let's see how many people can get that money. But yeah, that was something we needed to talk about. Outside of that, Tim, what are you looking forward to this week? And then we can close this out.
I can't think of a game in itself at the moment. I think, but I think point is correct. So I think the time has come for those Proteas. That's what I want to see. I want to see the incumbent Proteas dominate for the next week. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
Incumbent Proteas batters have a really solid week coming up, because we've got a World Cup in a few months, and in theory, we've got a great chance of winning it. In theory, so that's what we want to see.
Tim, we're here in September saying the same thing, and yeah, the theory was the problem. Actually, no, the theory wasn't the problem. It was the practice. But the other thing is, I'm hoping Rob Walter's been watching, because there's some interesting performances from South Africans who should be putting their hands up for that World Cup spot. Outside of that, enjoy the cricket, enjoy the SA20, enjoy the Under-19 World Cup. Go check out these gems from around the world, and then we'll be back next week, or whenever we are ready. We might have a conversation lined up this week like we did last, but we'll see you soon. Please do subscribe to the YouTube channel, as well as follow us on X for more information around any new pods. But outside of that, from myself and Tim, it's goodbye and lesale kakahiso.